What's going on, everybody? I'm joined by Sonia and Harry today to talk about Australia Decides, one of the most competitive selections, I have to say, one that we definitely look forward to every year. There are 11 songs and artists that are in the running to represent Australia. We've got our choices for which ones we think could win or could do really well in the selection. So let's get into it. So I'm going to go to you first, Harry, because you mentioned that this is a selection that you often like to pay close attention to, and I want to know, what is it that you like about Australia?
Well, I always hope Australia does well for two reasons. One, I'm half Australian, so being a Brit, it's always nice to have a different country to root for. And also, speaking of Brit, if Australia win, I believe we're one of the countries that it could turn to hosting, so that would be quite nice as well. The last 2 years of Australia Decides, I always enjoy the fact that it's one of the most contemporary national selections out there in terms of song quality, and it's always good for song quality as well.
And I think too that for you and I, coming from, you're from Britain, I'm also from a former British colony, the fact that, we do have that cultural tie makes the songs that Australia releases a little bit more in line with our own culture. And I'm curious how it is for you, Sonia, because this is also a selection that you enjoy. And how do you feel about the songs when compared to the music that's more current in your area?
Yeah, I find these songs that we have in Australian selections very modern, and we have a lot of, I think, strong contenders this year, and I liked previous edition of the show. It's always a good quality of the show.
Absolutely agree. I'm really excited about which one of these could be winning and representing Australia. So let's get to the first one. So Voyager's song was one of the first that we heard. With Australia Decides, they don't release all their songs at once. There's a little bit more of like a trickling thing that happens. So I'm curious, Harry, how do you feel about Dreamer?
It's a song I really like, to be honest. I always enjoy the rock genre, and the electric elements that this song has also complement it nicely. I do find this song quite fascinating to listen to, because a lot of times when you hear a song, it's usually the instrumental stays fairly similar throughout, while the lyrical content maybe changes. With this one, it's almost the opposite. Lyrically, you sort of notice Dreamer gets a little bit repetitive. The chorus has the same few lines, but where this song progresses and stands out is how the instrumental changes every 15 seconds even. So it makes it a very enjoyable experience, and it definitely feels like a song that is made for live. You can tell it's a very seasoned group. It's a very cohesive one, and I expect this to do quite well on Saturday.
I think so too. We are obviously talking about which ones could win, and I see this as an absolute contender for that. And I like what you mentioned about the evolution in the style, because it is a really distinct style. And one thing I want to address too is the fact that we are always talking about this influx of rock music that we're seeing in the national selections, and that could be thanks to our winners from last year and other songs that were successful. But I think that this one is at least coming in with a very distinct sonic identity, and I think that's great, because nobody's going to be thinking, oh yeah, they're trying to do what Måneskin did. But Sonia, how do you feel about Voyager?
Yeah, I think it could stand out because we have so many ballads in this selection. So this one is stand out because it sounds differently to start with. It's one of my favorites for the win. And actually, I also liked what Harry also said, that it's a mixture between genres. And actually, it reminded me of a band, of some Danish band that I listened to like 10 years ago. I don't know if anyone heard of them, but they're called Turbo Weekend.
Oh, and, that sounds familiar.
It's some Danish band. I think they have had a collab with DJ Tiesto. I was reminded, oh my God, I want to listen to that band again, and I want to listen to Voyager more, because I like this mix of genres that it brings. So definitely one of my favorites.
And another band that I was certainly reminded of from Australia is the Presets, and I think that had more to do with the sound of the lead singer's voice. And I saw that other people made that comparison too. Of course, they also tap into a pretty heavy electronic sound, so I think it's a complementary comparison. Yeah, I just think that this is one with potential, also with staging too. I think that this has real potential to be very impactful, not only for how it sounds, but the energy that it brings. If it has like, a crazy light show, and, even the movements that we see from the band in the video, if they're having something like that going on, I think that this could be a really great one.
We're not the same.
So Sonia, as you mentioned, there are a lot of ballads in this selection, and one that seems to be getting a lot of attention would be Sheldon's ballad. So what do you think of Not the Same?
I really like it also. I like that the song is like his personal story. It's not just a generic ballad with some lyrics. It's his lyrics that he's want to interpret. I think he's kind of unique. He's literally not the same to anyone else, and this could be his, to tell it in marketing words, this could be his unique selling point. I think it could all just catch an eye of Australian voters, and I don't know, maybe even win. Let's see, I think we have many contenders for a win, and this one could potentially do well in Eurovision too, if it comes to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is very eye-catching, even how he is with, he often has a lot of like headwear that he puts on. It is going to be curious to see how he applies that for a song like this, because it is very personal, as you alluded to, and it's very emotive. And people often talk about the role that the eyes play when you're singing a song like that. And there might be a creative way of doing that where not seeing the eyes actually works better. But I am curious about what his approach is going to be for this performance. For you, Harry, how do you feel about his song?
I think it's one of the best we have not just in this selection, in the entire season so far. What I enjoy is, and Sanya, you brought this up, obviously, it is very personal to him. You can see that in the lyrics. But the thing is, while it's personal to him, first of all, he plays around with it and makes it clever in the song in two ways. You've got the emotional lyrics in the verses, but then you've got this memorable hook in the chorus that people can grab onto and vote. Obviously, we've all seen Sheldon's stage look with the glasses and how extravagant he is. So the lyric sentiment of not the same, yeah, obviously visually he's not the same, but despite how personal the song is, it's a message that can relate to so many people. So I think it's a very good ballad, but it's also a very clever ballad, in my opinion.
Yeah, and one of the things that I wrote down is that it's very accessible, and for the reasons that you mentioned, because you can allude to his messages being about queerness, any kind of otherness really that lots of people have felt in their life. So it's not just about sexuality or gender identity or anything like that. Yeah, I think that that's a universal theme that can really reach people, even if the way that he sees himself as not the same is different to how other people might see themselves as not the same. So no, there is a lot that works here, and another thing that I think works pretty well is the subdued instrumentation. It really adds to the feeling. It's just perfect, But as we mentioned, there are a lot of ballads in this selection, so let's talk about another one that has seemed to be making a pretty big impact.
Let the stars align. I'll sing from the other side, 'cause I know it won't be just another day.
So this is going to be our closing song of the show, and that's one thing that I really like about Australia Decides, is that they're not afraid to close with a ballad. And when they did it in 2020 with Irie, I thought it was perfect. Harry, what do you feel about Jude York's song?
Yeah, I think it's one of the best songs we have in this contest. And you touched on how a ballad closing is unique to Australia. I think it does have to be a very specific ballad, because there are certain types of ballads where you listen to it and it takes you a few seconds to actually come back to reality, and you have this wow moment. Jude's is definitely that. The song obviously is called I Won't Need to Dream. It feels like you're in a dream while listening to it. The 2.5 minutes just flows by, and you get taken into a whole different reality. I do enjoy both parts are so different to each other, yet they're both excellent. The first part almost feels like his voice is conducting the orchestra of songs that he has, while the second part is very anthemic, very powerful. And in a similar way to Voyager, where Jude York obviously repeats the same line over and over, whether it be instrumental or vocally, he adds a little element every time to make you remember each section and not tune out. So I do think this is a potential underdog to do quite well. I can definitely see this doing really well in the jury votes. Televote, because of how many ballads there are, I'm less confident, but the fact it's closing will definitely help with that.
Yeah, and let's also not forget too that last time we had Australia Decides, a ballad won the televote. Didn't end up winning the whole show, but and a lot of people weren't really. This was Casey Donovan in 2020, and a lot of people weren't really considering her as a winner. But she just, tore the house down with her perfect vocal performance, and it was really something special to see. And absolutely, the dreamy feel of it, as implied by the lyrics of the song and the title of the song, it's perfect. To me, this is how you do a ballad in 2022, because it has this modern touch to the instrumentation. He's using these like flanging effects, and it just gives it a unique identity, even while it's still having this kind of theatrical feel to it. So this is absolutely a real gem among the songs that we have. How does this one land for you, Sonia?
I love it. I listen to it on a daily basis, and since it's out, as Harry said, it takes me somewhere else. It gives me some magical, a little bit of Disney vibe. And I think with a great staging that it could also take us completely somewhere else. And I don't know if you've heard what he's gonna wear on stage.
No, I didn't.
I read it on his Instagram that he lost his grandmother a few weeks ago. Oh. And she was a big supporter to him, and that's why he's gonna wear her favorite shirt to give an honor to her. And I think that's beautiful, and it's gonna be intimate to him, and with this beautiful lyrics and atmosphere, and I don't know, it's just full of emotions.
Yeah, I think the emotions is really going to be at the center of this. We are hoping for staging that also brings that dreamy element to it, and I'm pretty confident that we will, because we do see really great staging ideas from Australia. So definitely one to watch.
One little spark that started a flame, one little story carried the blaze. You're gonna try, but you'll never tame these little fires.
So we do see some familiar faces for those people who have followed Australia Decides before, and this is actually the first artist to return to Australia's national selection format. Sonia, what do you feel about Jaguar Jones' song this year?
Actually, she was my favorite last time she competed, and this year I like the song, but it's not among my favorites. If it wins, I would still be okay with it, because I still do like it, but it's not in my top 3. But I think it could all change when I see the performance, because what we know about her since the last time she competed, she brings something else on stage. Her stage presence and she's very creative when she had to bring the song live, so I think it could elevate the song, her staging.
One thing that's unique about Jaguar Jones is that she approaches a project from both the musical side and the visual side, because she is also an artist and a photographer as well. We saw that with her performance of Rabbit Hole, but also in her music videos. And her live performance was really a recreation, or at least the first part was a recreation of the aesthetic that she had going for herself in the music video. And we have a music video for this song as well, which makes me curious if she's going to do the same thing. I do hope that she does so without dislocating her shoulder like she did last time. But I think after you make that mistake once, you make all the necessary precautions to not have that happen again. Harry, how do you feel about the Jaguar Jones song?
Yeah, I'd say dislocating your shoulder is probably high on the list of things to avoid. Probably more than winning it. Just that's how you improve. I would agree in terms of I really enjoy the music video of this song. It definitely has its own unique aesthetic, and if she brings that to Australia Decides, that will definitely help her climb. One issue I would say I have with this song is I think when I recap in my head all the songs, I sort of forget this one often. It might be because the instrumental does a lot of the progressing, complemented with the vocals. It's not necessarily verse, chorus, which would usually stand out, but for whatever reason in this edition of Australia Decides, there's a lot of songs that follow that structure, and I think a lot of them are either more popular or do it slightly better. And it's very odd for me to say Jaguar Jones' song is forgettable, because it was the complete opposite in 2020. It was the most outlandish, outstanding song that you had in that contest. So I do think the staging would have to do a lot more of the heavy lifting than it did in 2020, where obviously the staging was very good, but the song was also popular and was balanced out a bit more. So I do think it's a contender, but the staging has to lift it up quite significantly.
And you know what? I agree as well. Like, I respect this song a lot. There is something about it that just when looking at it in the mix of all the songs that we have makes it a little bit hidden away, and perhaps that can be addressed with staging. One thing that I do want to address though is the context of the song, because one thing that has come out since her last participation in Australia Decides was how she had revealed that she experienced abuse in the Australian music scene, and it has evolved into this movement that's akin to Me Too. And the fact that she's been able to put that into her art, I wouldn't say that's surprising, because she is that kind of artist who allows herself to express that level of vulnerability, but it's also just very respectable, because a lot of people, they hold on to those things for their entire lives sometimes, and the fact that she is able to turn that into something productive is highly commendable. And it is a shame that it does seem like the song is getting a little bit lost in the mix, but still very respectable. I'm still just as excited about seeing her on stage, and I love that in the song she says, "I'm gonna make you remember my name," because in my case, like, we never forgot, and I hope that for other people it has that exact same impact and that they remember her going forward.
Fourth time I've been without you, it's been a drag without you. You think I'm used to being lonely.
Another one of the songs that has caught our attention is Charley's song, and it seems that although she's a relative newcomer to the Australian music scene, a lot of other people are actually paying attention to this song as well. Harry, how do you feel about Charley's song?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like it's a song that's really caught the attention of, I'd say, a younger demographic in specific. It's definitely the most contemporary ballad of the selection, maybe even the most contemporary modern song of the just period in the selection. I have a mixed relationship with this song, because when I hear it, I can tell musically it's amazing quality, but there's just something not necessarily connecting with me. Maybe it just takes a tad too long to get to the beautiful instrumental and the dramatic anthemic feel at the end. Mm-hmm. I think up until that point, as much as it's a beautiful sound with the previous two verses and choruses, I'm just waiting for that moment, if that makes sense. I'm not expecting it to just stay at a level. I'm expecting it to go up, and I think that catches your attention away from the lyrics before.
Yeah, it's interesting, because the thing that I notice about this song is that it does have a ramp of energy, but maybe it's a bit slow to get going. That's the sense that I get from what you're saying.
Yeah. Again, I think this may be in a similar line to Jaguar Jones's. It has this structure that in most national finals would be unique. And I think as much as Charley's song, musically, it's quality good, it's definitely got a chance of winning. I think there are potentially more standout options for me personally.
I get that too. I think that I had to kind of listen to it again to find the chorus. And I agree with you as far as it feeling very contemporary. It feels like something that you would hear on the radio nowadays. And it is, quite beautiful, I would say. The lyrics express a lot of vulnerability. And I do really like that instrumental part. I'm really curious about what we're going to be seeing then, if they've got something planned for how to, really make that the moment to look forward to. For you, Sonia, how do you feel about this song?
I have to disagree with the two of you when speaking about I get the sense that you wanted a stronger chorus, a more memorable chorus, or stronger progression. And I usually want this from ballads, but this one I find beautiful the way it is. I wouldn't make any revamp to make stronger progression or something. I just like it because it's simple in the way it is. What's the most beautiful thing for me in that song is it's storytelling, because it's very relatable. It has a story that everyone can connect to. And as you said, it's very modern type of ballad, and it's my type of a ballad. From this song, I don't need a wow moment to happen. The whole song is a wow moment for me.
Yeah, I like that different take, because the thing is, I'm kind of in between the two of you, where I'm not necessarily wanting to see more energy, but I as I said before, it's like I did have to kind of find the chorus again when I listened to it, and maybe that was just because I was, multitasking, and I should have been paying more attention to the music itself. But I am curious to see how this is going to go. Definitely one to watch. Yeah, I guess we'll just have to see what we get with that live performance. So those are the 5 songs that are really calling our attention the most. Of course, there are other ones here and certain notable artists that we haven't mentioned, and we do want to take a bit of time to kind of address those other songs that we see some potential in, but maybe have a few more shortcomings and why we're not really seeing them as contenders. And the first one we're going to be talking about is Andrew Lambrou's song called Electrify. Sonia, tell me what you think about that song.
I think the song is very radio friendly and I could listen to it on a daily basis, but I have one problem with it, and it's the Spanish parts of the song. Although I'm a big fan of Spanish language, culture, musical scene, but I don't know why he's doing it. I feel like it's forced. He's not the only one who's doing it this year in the national selections. Even in countries like Slovenia or Romania, we have songs in Spanish. Mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily like it because it's not fitting with the song. If the song was without those Spanish parts, I would listen to it, but it just doesn't sound very well to me.
So this was a point of discussion for us because both you and I speak Spanish to varying degrees, and we both were kind of struck by the choice of words and whether or not it was really that necessary. And you also mentioned the fact that it is a bit of a stereotype, not just in Eurovision, but in pop music in general. There is a lot of tapping into Spanish, artists who don't speak a lick of Spanish singing it just for the sake of it because it's popular. And I don't necessarily know if that's the situation here, but because it doesn't come off as very natural, and I even checked with our resident Spaniard Clara to see what her take was on it, and she used the exact same word that you did, forzada. It's forced, so it is a bit of a shame because I think that it is an aspect that holds the song back. But I do think that at least like for the rest of the song, it is a genuine effort because yes, this is a very contemporary song that we would hear on the radio. Some people might look at this as a bit like a cynical attempt at doing something that's popular, but I've seen on Andrew Lambrou's YouTube channel, for example, that he's done a cover of a well-known song by Above and Beyond called Sun and Moon. So to me, that at least expresses that he has a genuine interest in this style. And I'm not so sure about the Spanish part because that seems to be a little bit like, why not? Let's put it in there. That's not necessarily going to be a deal breaker for people who don't speak Spanish. But if this were to go to Eurovision, for example, I think that would be noticed by a lot more people than they realize, because it isn't just people from Spain. Spanish is widely spoken. I mean, I'm Canadian and I speak Spanish. Sonia, you're Croatian and you speak Spanish. So, I think that if you're going to go that route, it should be solid. It shouldn't just be for the sake of it. But anyway, Harry, how do you feel about Andrew's song?
I don't necessarily know how forced or lyrically good the song is, but one thing that I noticed when I first listened to the song was when I heard the Spanish thing, it did at least catch my eye. It put my interest back in the song. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't say necessarily improves my opinion of the song, but that wouldn't be the reason why it didn't go. In terms of the song itself overall, one similarity I compare this to is Cyprus's song from 2020, Sandro Running. It's very radio friendly. I'm not sure if this style is very Eurovision friendly. That's what I still need to discover. Because one thing I had with Sandro's song is, while it wasn't necessarily my favorite, I was always intrigued by how it was going to be staged. Obviously, we never got to find that out. So I suppose Andrew's staging on Saturday will be almost an equivalent. I'm intrigued to see how this staging works for this style of song.
And that's where I see this as having the most success. Like if they're able to really elevate it with, a great light show, some solid choreography. And I mean, like, there's a sensuality to the song. So as long as they keep like a tasteful level of sex appeal, then I would totally be on board with it. And I mean, let's be honest, the guy's really attractive. So I'm sure that a lot of people would be looking forward to that too. But yeah, that is the thing that makes me excited to see this, even though I'm not crazy about certain elements of the song. So let's see, maybe this will end up being really successful and maybe even winning.
You can waste all my time, minutes turn to hours, I don't even mind. So give me
We do have another familiar face here who actually represented Australia in 2017 with the song Don't Come Easy. It's Isaiah Firebrace, and he's actually bringing a partner with him to sing this duet, Evie. Harry, tell me what you think about this song.
So I am probably in the minority when I say that I actually really enjoyed his 2017 entry, and I don't know about you two, but if I'm going off the community, I'm probably in the minority that also really enjoys this entry as well. There's a sweet spot where it hits, where it's familiar sound, but not necessarily in Eurovision circles, which I always quite enjoy when I hear it, because you know it will attract a televote mainstream audience, even in juries as well, but it's not necessarily going to blend in with everything else. I do think where it all comes together, the crescendo at the end with the harmonies in the chorus, really could make this stand out staging wise. One worry I do have though is when I listened to the song recently again, is I've noticed Isaiah does have a few high notes in there, and after what happened in 2017, I am slightly concerned he's putting himself through it again.
So, a few things I want to talk about there. I actually did like his 2017 entry, and I know that seems to be an unpopular... Oh, you do too as well, Sonia?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So then we're all on the same page with that. Yeah. He has been a little bit villainized, I guess, because he was one of those entries that was heavily supported by the jury rather than the televote. We know how that tends to go with fans sometimes. And then, yes, there is the big noticeable croak that happens in the semifinal. With regards to this song, I'm also more or less on the same page as far as, like, I do enjoy it. I think that it's a very well-rounded, radio-friendly song. It's very, like, on the pulse of what's happening right now in terms of songwriting, in terms of, production techniques. It is, made for the radio as far as I'm concerned, but that's also the area where I'm just a little bit doubtful about it being the choice for Eurovision, because I fail to see, especially when compared to some of the other songs that we have, what would make this the best choice. I think it would be a good choice, and one that could certainly find its place in the final, one that could get a lot of support. Maybe it would also be a little bit unbalanced like last time, or maybe it wouldn't. Maybe the televote would love this, who knows? But yeah, it's just when looking at the other options, that's where I'm really not sure about this. And then also, I understand that for their performance, they have said that they want to keep the song the focus of it, which, that could work. It could also mean another reason for why people kind of write it off. I think it really just depends on what their chemistry is going to be like on stage, because if they are able to use that as a real selling point, then yeah, maybe we can consider this one that will win. But I just think that other songs that are being offered just have that little bit extra, that special Eurovision flavor, and it doesn't even have to come down to gimmicks either. It's really in the nature of the music, and obviously the live performances are going to change everything, so who knows. But anyway, Sonia, how do you feel about this one?
I also like the song, and I also don't think it has that Eurovision potential. I'm not sure. In Eurovision, you need to, I think, to stand out somehow. And for me, it's pleasing to listen to, but I think it could happen what happened to UK's entry from last year, to Amber's. In Eurovision, you need to have a song that people either love, or some of them maybe hate the song that the majority love. But this is the type of song that everybody loves, but no one loves it as much as is necessarily to vote for it, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely been a factor in some songs that have fallen short of points, because you have to remember, too, that you only get points if you land in the top 10. And if there are 10 songs, if most people see 10 better songs, it doesn't matter if you're 11th with everyone else, you might end up last place because you don't have any points, right? Again, I don't think that would necessarily be this song's fate, but I take your point in it missing that certain, special factor. And I don't know, Harry, do you have anything else, since you're more of the fan of the song than we are, about like what you think could work for Eurovision?
I mean, all I would say is, in terms of that, why did you have to bring up my nation's 0-point triumph? I would say, yeah, I do think it's a concern. I think in the selection, but what I would say is, I think it's a credit to Australia decides as the selection in itself, because I do believe that in many other selections this year, this will probably be a lot of people's favourites to win. But in terms of this selection, I do appreciate there are probably better options.
Mm-hmm. All right, so those are the songs that we are most intrigued by, I would say. Now, of course, we have to choose a winner. I'm sure we're going to choose among the songs that we've discussed. We're not going to choose one that we just decided has not been grabbing our attention too much. But Sonia, let me know, which song do you see winning?
I want to say Jude York or Charley.
Okay. And how about you, Harry?
I would say Sheldon is probably the front runner, but I wouldn't be surprised if Voyager took it as well.
All right, and I'm going to borrow from both of you and say that I hope that it's going to be either Voyager or Jude York. As we have mentioned a number of times, there's lots of great choices here. So even if it's not one of those, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be very happy. And I think that it's going to be a successful year for Australia, at least at Eurovision. Let us know what you think. Which songs are your favorites? Do you see one of our choices for winners actually winning the show? Or do you have another pick? Maybe even one of the songs that we didn't mention? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to reach out to us on socials, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'd love to know what you have to say about this selection or any of the other selections that still haven't been decided. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much, everybody. And we will see you on the next video. Take care.